Good morning, and this is Monday, May 4th edition of the Master Pattern Report, brought to you by your host, Dr. Bob Flower. How are you this morning? Well, we're back in beautiful, rainy New York. We left our Scottsdale domicile, and here we are with some very interesting information for you this week. First, as we usually do, let's look at our last week's scenario. We called for an upward move on Wednesday the 24th, and we hit it right on the button, and had a nice up move in a week that was so-so. And our yen and our Australian dollar, our yen topped out, which we had talked about, and the Australian dollar did show some strength and is continuing to show some strength. Okay, now this week, as I promised you last week, I'm going to show you some fascinating information that has implications not only in the stock market but in your everyday reality. We have said since we started this over 2 years ago that it's our claim that reality is not what it appears to be, that it's totally different. And with the master pattern, we are able to make predictions of different types using this quote other reality. And I'm going to show you today some more science concerning this reality utilizing the stock market. But I want you to keep in mind that the significance of this, as far as we're concerned, is lies not only in predictability in the stock market and in other events, but in the fact that we are not living the type of life that we should be, because of the fact that we have been totally misinterpreting what our reality actually is. Okay? So, without further ado, let me show you a couple of charts of something entirely different. Now, I'm sure that you've all heard the scientific principle of equal and opposite reaction. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay. Well, what we want to do is we want to show you, this is a small chart, segment chart of currency. This happens to be the Swiss franc. And what you'll notice are these lines running across here. And on these lines, we have certain points, blue and red. And you'll notice that we have these at points, like for instance, you take this bottom line, where the move hits right on the line. Okay? Here and here and here. What this means is that this line runs on literally for infinity, both ways, back and forward, to its very inception, and that every time a move hits this line, if it's powerful enough, it's going to either it'll bounce off of it or bounce up from it. And what you do is you count how many ups and downs there are along these lines, and when there's an overbalance, say if there's 8 downs and 9 ups, you can be pretty well assured that the ninth move is going to balance it out, equal and opposite reaction. And the same thing works for tops. That what will happen is on the equalizing move, you will either get a bounce off of it down, or it'll penetrate to the next higher level, where these bands, these lines, power lines occur. Now, ironically, we call these flower power lines. Okay, and they work incredibly well, especially when you have significant data and the chart goes back far enough so that you can really get a better idea as to where it's going. Now, every once in a while, what happens with these bands is you'll get an overabundance. For instance, like you may have 10 downs and only 5 ups, which it really doesn't happen, but I'm just giving you an example. It may be only 7 ups, okay? Well, that's an indicator that you're about to have a large move up to equalize, and very consistent one. Now let me show you another chart, which with numerical expression on it, okay? And here you see the same thing. Now you'll see here's a whole bunch of orders here that kind of bounce around, and you have a down, you have another down, you have an up, you have a down, you have an up, you have a down, then you have 2 ups in a row. But look what happens with the 2 ups, because they're balanced out at that point. You get a significant move down. Now, the minute it penetrates either one of these 2 lines, you know that that's the direction it's going. Okay? And then the idea is to have created other lines, like here, to see where there may be bottom resistance points and bounce points, and then play it accordingly. Flower power lines, okay? Very fascinating. What this has to do, put this down, what this has to do with our daily reality is the notion that we've talked about at different times, and going to be the subject of my upcoming book, that things continue on ad infinitum, into infinity, and that the universe is filled with these, for lack of a better term, power grid lines. And thought forms, information forms are part of that. And so that in effect, what happens is consciousness continues on with in different levels and different sets, different mindsets, so to speak, into infinity. And this mathematics that we're talking about in our upcoming book called Global Scaling Theory demonstrates this very clearly. So just a little something to keep you thinking about what's going on when you're having your difficult days. Just don't look at it from just the small perspective you're going through. Look at it from a lifelong experience, and look at it from an eternity experience. What is it that you can do, or things can be done differently, so that in a, quote, afterlife, things will be that much better. Again, this is scientifically based. We're not starting a cult here. We use this in our decision making, daily decision making process. We use it in the stock market. We use it in our businesses, and we'd love to pass this information on to you. We're looking for a vehicle to make that more viable for you. We are just about ready with our blog and our new website, which I will be giving to you next week. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or issues, you can reach us at our current website, still the same, www.decodingpotential.com. And the email is drrjf@yahoo.com. Now, what we need to do is next week we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on politically, and this new notion that the president came out with this past week concerning the stock market playing a lesser role. Things are changing, the world is changing, and we had better be on top of things, because it looks like what we may end up with are permanent changes that to some degree may not be good, and to other degrees may be quite good. We'll discuss that later. Listen, have a great week. Things are really getting exciting, and we're going to talk some more about the science of the stock market and mind as we go along here. Have a great week.